We interrupt this program for an NBC News special report. Here is Garrick Utley.
Good evening. After waiting for several hours, we're about to get the latest medical report on George Bush's health. As you know, he's at the Bethesda Naval Hospital just outside of Washington for treatment for an irregular heartbeat. Marlin Fitzwater, the White House spokesman, will appear in just about a minute. John Cochran is standing by there at the White House. It appears, John, that the president is going to spend another night there, a second night at the hospital. Is that right?
That's what we've heard from no less than his wife, Barbara Bush. She was leaving Bethesda Naval Hospital a short time ago. She indicated she would be coming back to the White House, although she spent last night at the hospital, and the president would be staying behind. And of course, this is because the irregularity in his heart, in his heartbeat, that has continued. They are continuing to try a second medication, Garrick, and the hope is that shortly that will clear up, possibly tomorrow. And of course, we'll know more about that when Marlin Fitzwater walks out here in a few moments and tells us just what the doctors have reported. This briefing, incidentally, is 3.5 hours late. We don't know what that means. We don't have any indication that it's ominous. I think the medical reports were frankly rather complicated, and I think Marlin Fitzwater wanted to be very careful before he came out here, Garrick.
John, as you say, perhaps no patient gets greater scrutiny than the President of the United States, even when it is a benign situation, as the doctors assure us it is with the President. But now we're going to get the facts from the spokesman.
President Bush's medical diagnosis today remains essentially the same as last night. He continues to take digoxin and procainamide for the atrial fibrillation. While there have been some indications of a positive response to the medicine, the president's heartbeat has not returned to its normal rhythm. The president is wearing a heart monitor, and the doctors continue to watch his progress. In order to allow continued observation of the president, he will remain overnight at Bethesda Naval Hospital. Mrs. Bush has returned to the White House. The president has spent a relatively active day at the hospital, conferring with Governor Sununu, General Scowcroft, his doctors, Mrs. Bush, and other friends that he has called. He visited with his son Marvin and his daughter Dorothy at the hospital, as well as his grandchildren, Sam and Ellie LeBlond. The president's medical team met for nearly 2 hours this evening, from 4 to 6 o'clock, to discuss the latest test data. They report that the president is in fine condition, good spirits, and showing some response to the medicine. They will review the president's progress again tomorrow morning, perhaps as early as 5 or 6 a.m. The doctors report that atrial fibrillation can last for varying periods of time, sometimes only a few hours, sometimes longer. It is a condition that must be continually analyzed, but can be treated in a number of ways. Because the president is now entering his second day with this heart irregularity, there has been considerable speculation about courses of medical treatment. We want to assure the American people that the president is in a healthy condition. He has not suffered a heart attack. He has not suffered heart muscle damage. We remain hopeful that the medication will return his heart to normal rhythm. If by morning that is not the case, the doctors will consider electrical cardioversion. This procedure is well known and relatively commonplace. The risk is minimal, particularly in a patient such as the president who has no demonstrable heart disease. Nevertheless, it would require general anesthesia, which would be expected to incapacitate the president for only a short period of time. The final decision on this will be made tomorrow morning. During the short time that the president would be under anesthesia, the Vice President would be acting President under the 25th Amendment. Once again, I want to emphasize that we hope the President will respond to his medicine in a way that returns his heartbeat to normal, and no further treatment will be needed. The doctors will make that evaluation early tomorrow morning. I'll try to take a few questions before I go off.
What time do you expect them to meet and make the evaluation?
It will be early in the morning, probably around between 5 and 6 o'clock. We'll notify you here of any decisions that are made one way or another.
How long would the president be incapacitated if this were to take place?
The anesthesia could be required for just a few minutes. It is involved in the procedure of diagnostic exercise that has to go with this process, and it depends on the outcome of the diagnostic effort how long then the procedure itself would take. But in any case, it would be a relatively short period of time, perhaps only minutes.
Marlin?
Marlin,
Terry?
are the doctors distressed that this condition has not been alleviated by the medication? Do they think that that's a matter of concern? Does it show any gravity of his problem?
No, the doctors say that that this progress is to be expected in many cases. The history of this disease is such that you can have any number of different kinds of examples of length of time before the rhythm is restored. Some patients have had it restored in a matter of minutes or hours. Some patients have it for essentially the rest of their life or for years, and they undergo medical treatment. So the doctors will examine the situation in terms of the best treatment they believe is necessary to restore the normal rhythm. But the fact of that we are at this point and that it has developed in this fashion was certainly to be expected by those who study this problem. John?
In this case, we know in advance that the president would be incapacitated if indeed he takes this electrical defibrillator. But in fact, what if something should happen during this time and he should be incapacitated further, or in the future if he should be incapacitated? Who makes that judgment? That's always been a bit of a gray area. Does the president have an understanding, a private understanding with the vice president on this? Who determines when the president is incapacitated?
Well, the 25th Amendment is relatively clear on this point. The president, in the first analysis, makes the judgment that he will be incapacitated, and doing so, signs the letters to the President Pro Tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, which transfers the power to the Vice President. Then there has to be a decision made at the end of this process that he is able to resume his duties. And under the statute, he makes that decision as well. Obviously, that's a decision that he would make in consultation with his doctor, all the medical team, the chief of staff, his counsel, and any others that he chooses to consult.
Marlin, my question is, what if the president is unable to make that decision himself? Who makes the decision he's incapacitated?
Well, that's the point, is that the president makes that decision and has to be able to make that decision. So that that's a part of the process. Frank?
Can you tell me if the enzyme tests that they did showed any elevations and whether or not they've made any progress on discovering the underlying cause of this problem?
I don't have any specific test results, and once again, the causes are almost impossible to determine. Yes, sir.
In layman's terms, can you describe to us the procedure that's under consideration?
Essentially, once again, I reiterate that we are hopeful the medicine will do the job, but should they go to this other procedure, it basically is a single application of direct electrical current to the heart. Just a one very quick jolt that normally restores the rhythm to the heart, and again, is a very routine procedure. Ann?
What would happen here at the White House tomorrow if President Bush elected to have this procedure? Would Vice President Quayle be here in the White House? Would he conduct the president's schedule? And would he occupy the Oval Office?
Vice President Quayle, of course, would be at the White House in his office of Vice President. I'm sure that's where he would work out of, and he would conduct the affairs of the presidency as he sees fit. The president's schedule would obviously be altered should he be unavailable. And similarly, if he's back at work tomorrow morning, which we all hope he is, he intends to continue that schedule. Kaya.
What was the president's response to the doctor's report?
Well, you saw the president leaning out the window saying, "Let me out of here." And essentially, that's his attitude. He's ready to come home. Ellen.
Marlin, why haven't we received any test results or spoken with any, had access to any of the medical people? The president's been in the hospital now for well over 24 hours.
The doctors are working on this issue as best they can. We have given you the conclusions and have reported to the American people on the status of the president, and there'll be a proper time and place for that, and certainly if the procedure is carried out, there would be a medical briefing afterwards.
So we can expect
Julia.
a medical briefing tomorrow if there is a procedure, and if there is no such procedure, no doctors to explain the president's condition.
If he isn't, he'll probably be back at the White House. Julia.
Logically, then tomorrow he would have this procedure, and is that right? If you decide, if the doctors decide tomorrow morning, he will have it tomorrow.
They'll decide tomorrow morning what course to take.
What other courses are there?
Necessarily, would he? Does that mean that the procedure would be taken tomorrow, not morning, or?
It would be taken tomorrow morning if that's the decision to do so, yes. If the medicine has worked in the course of the night, then obviously nothing's necessary.
Would you announce it in advance, Marlin, if that was necessary? Would you announce it in advance?
Right. Yes, we'll announce tomorrow morning what the decision of the doctors is and what course that they intend to pursue. Let's take 2 final questions. John?
Marlin, is there concern?
John, please.
Marlin, is there concern that if this condition continues unalleviated for any length of time, that it could cause damage to the president's heart?
No, as I said, this is a condition that many people have for the rest of their lives or over long periods of times and years. It is treated in different ways, sometimes with medical treatment, but it will be handled without further problems with the heart, as I understand it. Greg?
Do you know how long he might be incapacitated? And will a letter be drawn up that he signs?
Well, again, I would remind you that President Bush said when he first came into office that he wanted to establish a plan, an efficient and effective plan where everybody knew what they were going to do, to make this a routine kind of activity so that the American people could be assured that should it be necessary, all the notifications were taking place and the letters would be written and so forth. The letters that are used in this case have been written and are carried with the President as a part of the football, as we say it, the satchel that the military carries with him at all times. It's always available should they be needed. They can be updated to fit any different situation. But we are in a situation where, if that is necessary, it will be routinely carried out under the direction of the Chief of Staff.
So have those letters been updated, Marlin?
They have been updated, yes. Joanne?
Marlin, has the Vice President met with the President? Is the Vice President going through any rigorous training or intelligence briefing?
The Vice President discussed the President's condition with him this morning in a phone call. Governor Sununu talked to the Vice President this evening about 8:30 to discuss this latest development, and he is well aware of the President's situation. Let's take one final question here.
Yes, sir. Did anybody give you, in effect, any odds on whether he'll need the electrocardiogram procedure?
No, the doctors will make that evaluation on the best of their medical ability. Thank you very much.
Wait, Marlin, we have other questions.
And there we are, Marlin Fitzwater at the White House announcing the medication the President has been receiving so far has not solved his condition, the irregular heartbeat. If it's not cleared up by tomorrow morning, he may undergo electrical cardiac version treatment there. That would mean the President goes under anesthesia for a few minutes. During that period, the Vice President will assume the powers of the presidency, Dan Quayle. That is our latest medical report on the President's health this evening. For most of you, we'll be returning to normal programming on NBC's television network. For those of you who watch NBC Nightly News at this time, we'll be back in just one moment with more of that. I'm Garrett Gutley.
This has been an NBC News special report. We now rejoin Sunday Night at the Movies, already in progress.